All right, guys. First and foremost, just going to go over Coach Mike's release. I've had a chance to kind of visit with him over the last couple of days, and his wishes were just to give a little bit of information about the situation he's in. This is what he kind of texted out to me or told me through Coach Steph earlier today. Obviously, this has gone on the past 5 or 6 months. It's gotten worse with infections. Throughout all of that, I've never missed a day of practice. Instead, even worked extra days, Saturdays, Sundays, to help this team and the pitchers prepare. Here lately, the health issues have increased, making it hard for me to swallow and even talk. This condition has limited me to the bench, but I'm still here every day, hoping to fight, hoping to beat it. This past week, I did take a turn for the worse. Surgery revealed a very inflamed esophagus that required immediate attention from a specialist. So in the past week, I've spent 4 days in the hospital, making it impossible for me to travel and attend practice. I know how tough it is on these kids, but they're strong and they're tough. More importantly, they're leaders. I appreciate everyone's prayers, love, and support. But right now, please help these kids get through a tough situation. We need our Ragin Cajun fans, the best softball fans in the country, to support these kids and help them get through this. To my players, I love you. Keep competing, playing free, stay together, and just know all those bombs you hit this weekend made me smile. Amen. So, with that said, just kind of looking over the weekend, based on what I saw from my situation and knowing kind of what was going on with some of those kids. From an emotional standpoint, these kids played with passion. They played with heart and desire. And given the situation, it was difficult for them at times. But they played free. They competed. They competed. If you look at that first game, you know, down by 3 or 4 runs in the third inning, we scored 3 to tie it back up. Down by 4 or 5 in the fifth, scored 4 or 5 to tie it back up. Going to the 7th inning, down by 5 or 6 runs, we get the winning run at the plate in the heart of the lineup. And I look back at that situation and tell those kids and some of the other staff that, you know, given the last 4 or 5 days, the scenario that these kids have been put in, given that situation, all you can ask for is at the end of the game, you can have 3, 4, and 5 at the plate with a chance to win it. The way they bounced back in Game 2 showed me how their focus was, how intent they were to win the series. I was proud of that focus. I was proud of their ability to play free. The last 5 or 7 days on those kids, and for all of us, just the unknown of what was going on with Coach Mike. He's such a emphatic leader, you know, emotional leader for all of us. He's definitely the rock and the glue that keeps everything going. And to not know everything that was going on was tough on all of us. And those kids, you know, they proved their maturity, they proved their leadership. It was very good for me to be able to see them bounce back in Game 2 in such dramatic fashion and just tear the cover off the ball for 4 or 5 innings. Those kids are important to all of us. I'm asking you, from Coach Mike and myself, just please keep those kids in your thoughts and prayers. It's a tough situation being 18, 19, 20 years old in the situation that they're in to keep it all together. And it's been tough for some of us as well. You know, we love Coach Mike, and Coach Mike means so much to all of us. So, and his wishes are to focus on the kids. They're the ones that he wants you to be in support of and thinking of. So, at this time, I'll definitely open it up for questions and maybe even looking ahead to the upcoming series with Georgia State.
How nervous were you coaching this weekend?
I wasn't nervous about the competition. I was nervous and anxious about some of the procedures he was having. Like I said, you know, he means a lot to me, and it was tough not knowing, and without him being able to talk and communicate, it was tough not having all the answers and being that far away, trying to take care of that. You know, as far as competing and being on that field, it doesn't bother me, but was tough. He's a very different one.
27 home runs in the doubleheader ought to relax you
A little bit. Lets you relax a little bit. Makes you feel good. It makes you smile for those kids for sure. It makes you appreciate their hard work and their focus and their ability to, based on the situation, to be able to step on that field and compete like they know he wants them to compete. And I was proud of him.
It was a crazy situation, like you've been saying, and then you play maybe game one of the most, probably the craziest games since you've been here. I mean, and then what was that like? I mean, like, what's going on here? It's 14, it ended up 14-13. You just don't play 14-13.
Right. As far as, I didn't look at it necessarily as the score or what was happening on the game. I was focused on the performance that those kids were doing each at bat, each inning of work, and we talked a little bit after the game. We made some mistakes in the circle. We gave up a few more hits and a few more walks than what we should have. But the offense answered back in every situation, every scenario, and that's what I took from it. It was a crazy game, but those kids were nails the whole stretch. Like, I definitely was probably more worried about their performance and outcome than they were. They knew what they were doing, and they stepped in the box and competed every pitch.
Can you talk about how Alex and Kaylee Joe have stepped up?
Yeah, Alex this weekend was a huge contributor. Alex, in that situation, you just lose a game 14-13, and as a freshman, kind of get thrown into the mix. I felt like she stepped up both emotionally. She gave that team something to kind of center themselves around, and she was dominant on the mound. The strikeouts that she was getting were huge swing and misses. If you didn't get to see the game, she made those kids swing and miss a lot, which gave me a lot of confidence for knowing who we were going to go with the next day. Her performance was what that team needed, and the offense, just that game, the offense picked up. The better she did in the circle, the next inning they just hit the ball even harder, even further.
Speaking of emotions, how's it going to be, TJ, for your conference game Friday and then that doubleheader on Saturday back home at Lamson?
I haven't thought that far ahead, honestly. My focus has been trying to keep these kids in the protocol and the progress that Coach Mike wants them to do. But I'm sure it'll hit, come Friday evening when we start getting ready. It's going to be tough for everybody. I think the best way to help these kids get through it is to have a stadium packed full of loud, boisterous fans and support those kids. I think they feel at home with the fan support. We had a great turnout with fans in San Marcos, and I think that it helps those kids feel comfortable and be at home. But I'm sure the emotions will be riding high about 3:30, 4 o'clock on Friday when we start getting ready.
Lexi's numbers are just sick even for her this weekend. Is she doing anything right now that's a little different, or is it just?
I think if you look at her last year as well, when we got into Sun Belt play, she just seemed to start seeing the ball a little bit better. And I don't know if it's because now we start to repeat pitchers. In some of those series, you'll see the same kid in 2 outings. But she is not missing anything. She's swinging. Like, if you see the barrel release, it's a hard hit. And she's seeing it well. Her timing is there. She's in a good place. And she put on a fireworks show for sure this weekend.
What was obviously y'all kept hitting, but there was such a huge difference between their hitting in game one. The wind was blowing out. The wind, I'm sure, didn't just stop blowing out after game one. So the huge difference as far as y'all pitching, what did y'all do so much differently to go from 14 to 2 to 0 for them?
I think the biggest thing was just being able to see what their weaknesses were, be able to see what we could attack with Alex, and Alex commanded the zone. She was ahead of hitters, which we didn't do in game one, which does make it hard to keep the ball in the park in a team. I mean, they had 40 home runs before we got there, so it wasn't like they hadn't hit anything. gave us the opportunity to pitch ahead in the count and get them to chase pitches off the plate late in the count, which minimized some of the damage from game one.
With the teaming kind of, I know there's a lot of unknown with Coach's situation, but kind of figuring what's going to be the future, what's the key for the coaching staff this week? Because I'm sure you're going to want some sort of stability in these coming weeks. How do you go about approaching that this week of trying to start getting some form of regularity?
I think, the one thing that I've tried to do, and I've talked to Coach Steph and Coach Mike both today, my plan is to be able to get a little bit of some dialogue from him, whether it's via text or me writing it down from listening to him talk, but be able to pass on a few words to them is what he wants them to kind of focus on or what they did well. You got to see some of the game action from this weekend. That's going to be first and foremost for me to establish that connection between the players and Coach Mike. I think it'll give them some relief. It'll give them a little bit of a relaxed feeling. And then we'll just take each day like we do every day, the protocols in place and what we have to work on for each weekend. It kind of stays the same, the offense and the pitching. So from a preparation standpoint, I don't think anything changes. The system that's in place works. I want to try hard to establish a connection and a communication for those kids and him. I think that'll make them feel better. I think it'll help ease their nerves a little bit, and we'll just go out and attack it this weekend.
Did he have any comments on the 14-13 game when you talked to him?
Not at the moment. He did offer. He said some of those home runs were bombs. I said, yeah, some of them were a long ways over. He was pretty excited about that. This game's tough. It's hard to go out and expect these kids to win every single game they play or every performance they have to be an elite level performance. And it's tough, especially when you get to conference series on the road. Texas State was a good competitive team. They had a good pitcher. They had some quality hitters. And I think we lose sight of the fact that it's a tough game. That's why we play 50, 56 games a season. And you can't judge or evaluate a kid's performance on one outing. And Jordan and Christina struggled a little bit, but the team bounced back and they found a way to take the series. And looking into this go-ahead in this weekend, that the offense is firing on all cylinders, and I think we'll be in a good place by the end of the weekend.
Georgia State played a similar type series. I mean, they score a lot of runs too.
Yeah.
Is this an even better hitting team than you just faced?
On paper, they've already hit 60 home runs. I believe Texas State did 40 or 42 by the time we got there. They're definitely capable, and I want to say between them and South Alabama, they hit almost the same number of home runs that Texas State and we did. The thing that I think helps us is we've got to see a lot more of them, from last year going into this year, of what to expect from their hitters. And Texas State had a few newer hitters in the lineup that made it a little bit tougher for us to figure them out until after game one. Georgia State returns a lot of the same kids from last year, so it makes it a lot easier for us to have a game plan in place. Georgia State's a very, very good offensive team. We'll definitely have our hands full, but I feel good about where we're at offensively and based on what we did this past weekend.
Any more questions?
Thanks, Coach.
Yes.
Thanks, TJ.